Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for, you can't see, I look better in this one than I did the first one. I just realized how bad I look. Yeah, I needed some help. So this video, I'm going to be covering the satanic worshiping sex cult, hold on a second, let me get this straight. The suburban devil worshiping Satanist Pazuzu. To be specific, he went by the name Pazuzu Algrat. But don't worry, that wasn't his real name. He had a normal name to begin with. Let's just jump right into the video. I talked a lot in the other one and I don't want to do that for this one. John Lawson was born August 12th, 1978. His parents' name was Cynthia Lawson and Timothy Lawson. They were married in 1971 in North Carolina and divorced by 1990. Now, whenever they divorced, Cynthia decided to remain in North Carolina while Timothy moved back to California. In 1998, Cynthia decided to remarry to a guy named Johnny Larry James, and they ended up moving to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Okay, now back to John. He was the kind of person that tried to impress everyone constantly. He was a known liar. For example, he would tell people crazy BS like he was from Iraq, that his father was a priest, and he claimed that he had lived all over the United States. His mother said that he did his own thing, but he was a moody, depressed type child. But Cynthia started to worry more about him whenever she caught him abusing drugs and animals, which any mother would. So being a concerned parent, she took him to see a psychiatrist. Exactly what she should have done. Okay, now a lot of you from the true crime community know that it is very common of serial killers to have abused animals and different things like that. Like, I don't know what, it is just a common trait between serial killers. So you can understand why Cynthia was so concerned and wanted to get her child help. She went to the doctor and wanted to know what was wrong with her son. After John Pazuzu had been at the doctor for a while and they had ran a series of tests on him, they diagnosed him as being agoraphobic. Now, an agoraphobic is a person who doesn't like to go outside. They don't like to be around people, and a couple other there's several other things that go along with this, and I'll put the description in the box right here. I couldn't imagine being so young and suffering with such a condition as agoraphobia, and also having manic depression and schizophrenia. This young guy, he had to have been suffering so bad. Now, Cynthia tried to keep him in with the doctors at the psychiatric ward as long as she possibly could, but unfortunately her money ran out. Now, side note, the United States' approach on the mentally ill, I feel, is it's awful, point blank. If you don't have the insurance money or just straight cash, you're not going to get treated. As soon as that money runs out, boom, it don't matter if you're better or not, you're out on the street. So I feel like the United States should definitely look into this and try to come up with some more solutions to try to help the mentally ill of this nation. Because once a catastrophe happens, then everyone's pointing fingers and no one wants to take responsibility. And if they would have just maybe treated some of these poor people, then maybe some of these shootings and other things would have never happened. But okay, anyway, I'll shut up now. So John eventually dropped out of high school. This is when he gets the bright idea to change his name from John to Pazuzu. So he goes to the courthouse and requests a legal name change. And just wait till you hear the full Pazuzu name. So officially on his birth certificate, it now reads Pazuzu Ella Algren. Pazuzu Ella Algren. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but I gave it my best shot. And he put his occupation as a satanic worshiper and dedicated drug dealer. Imagine that, kitty cats. Now, the definition of Pazuzu in mythology is apparently this thing or guy, whatever, was the king of demons. Also the demon that was portrayed in The Exorcist. I'm not judging anyone's religion. Do what you do. As long as you're not hurting anybody, it's none of my business. It's none of anyone else's business. Do you. Okay, not only did Pazuzu change his name, but he did his appearance also. He ended up getting all kinds of crazy face tattoos. And they can look awesome I believe if they're done right. Like, I think they can look. He also filed his teeth into fangs like this. I'm not sure which ones, but I'll try to find a picture and put it in here. But he filed his teeth into fangs and forked his tongue like a snake. This was him trying to live up to this dream, this scary image that he wanted to portray. He loved the idea of scaring people. Remember? Like, he just thought that was the greatest thing. He loved to brag about having powers. He always trying to convince people that he could control the weather. How he sacrificed humans to the devil. Like, he bragged about this stuff constantly. And no one really took him serious, but all these people that actually hung on these ideas and stories that he told constantly. So once he started getting people to follow him, he started to research the idea of cults. Pazuzu always liked the idea of a cult. So he went to the library and started to dig up information on different cults. And he found this one guy that everybody knows, or most people do, and he goes by the name of Charles Manson. I'm going to do a video about Charles Manson one day, and then you can understand why I have such a disgust for this man. Like, he is nobody that you should be following. Trust me, he is nobody's idol. To sum it up, Charles Manson was a pussy, okay? He basically manipulated people into doing his dirt work. And by doing that, he thought, oh, I can go out here and, get my freak on and do all this crazy stuff through other people, and I'll get out of all kinds of trouble. Like, I'll never see the inside of a prison. Well, guess what? Well, I don't want to say too much because, well, you'll just have to watch and see. I personally can't stand people like that. They are just... ew. That's when Pazuzu got the bright idea to start a cult. And he based this cult, now let me see if I can say this right, Luciferianism and Islam. And together, he would make this new type of cult based on a sex religion. Now, I just want everybody to understand, even though he claimed this stuff, this wasn't how the actual other religions, the real religions, how they worked. The Luciferianism and Islam. So I just wanted to clarify that. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody's religion, so just get that straight. I am just talking about Pazuzu and how he worked, like, and how he went about his cult. Like, no offense to anybody, okay? Okay. Pazuzu was the type of person who liked to prey on people's fears. Now, all this happened back around 9/11. So people had a big fear of the Islamic religion. So he took people's fear of the Islamic religion and the misunderstanding of it. And of course, people are afraid of the devil. Well, most people, I certainly am afraid of the devil. And combined it to make this super fear. I hope this is making sense. This super fear religion, so he could go around like being Mr. Scary Bad Guy. He basically just did whatever he could to scare the shit out of people. He definitely got off on that. Bam! Luciferianism and Islam under Pazuzu was born. I know I can't be mean, and I don't want you guys to think that I'm picking on someone who had a mental illness or was suffering from all these different mental illnesses. I know he wasn't receiving proper treatment. But honestly, where was his mother during all this? Like, regardless if he was an adult or whatever, if I had a son that acted like that, I would have never stopped trying to get him treatment or help. I most certainly wouldn't have allowed to go on in my home that she did. And I'm going to explain all this in a minute. Since he had his religion, it was time to build a following. Pazuzu targeted the lower class citizens of his area, drug addicts. He invited people to come to his house and party and do drugs. And of course, people came back because, being a drug addict, people knew that they could get their supply there, and it was a safe place to do drugs. He especially dealt with meth addicts and heroin addicts. The house basically was a revolving door of people. Apparently, according to my research, I just went back to look, his mom did still own the home, but she and her husband had moved out. According to police, she told them that she did drive by to see him and check on him from time to time. And I just seriously don't believe that that is true, because once you all see what was going on in that house, then you understand why I don't believe her. Because there's no way in hell any mother would allow such shit to go on in her house. Now, oops, sorry, camera. Now, as Pazuzu started to build this religion and his following under him, he gave them names. He called these people the misfits and the outcast. And of course, where parties are and this and that, there's girls. And these girls just was obsessed with him. Like, they thought he was just the hottest thing since sliced bread. They were like, ooh, baby. Ooh, let me get with ya. Love that you don't take a bath for over a year. Now, that was something else. He would brag to people that he would only bathe once a year and only brush his teeth once a year. Talk about. But he would date all these girls, and he called every one of them his fiancée. And that's how the sex cult was born. All these girls would just take turns sharing him. And supposedly this house was full of drugs, sex, and just pure filth. Now, not only were the drugs, sex, and partying were going on, but remember, this is also a satanic cult. They would take turns slitting each other's, I don't know if it was wrist or whatever, but they would cut each other and drink each other's blood. Once they were done doing that, they would take their wound and wipe it on the wall like they were signing themselves over to Pazuzu in blood. Even one of his followers confirmed all this. That's where all this information came from. One of his followers also stated that not only could you do drugs, have sex, cut and drink each other's blood, but could also pee on the wall, poop in the corner. And side note, I don't think it was because they could like be rebellious and pee all over the place and poop. I just secretly believe that they couldn't pay the water bill. And that's also what Bailey Sarian believes. And I agree 100%, girl. I just think that they couldn't pay bills, so they're like, woohoo, let's go pee all over and pick a corner to poop in. So cool. Not. But anyway, according to his follower, he also said that they, quote, they could kill an animal and drink its blood and chop it up and play with its dead body. How every day was a party. How there was no rules. That you could do whatever you wanted. Fight whoever. And it didn't matter. You could destroy whatever. And on top of that, there's more. Pazuzu was always claiming that he was killing and eating people. But of course, no one took him serious because no one had ever saw him kill and eat people. They thought he was just trying to keep up with this scary image that he had made. And also, everyone knew what a compulsive liar he was. But he continued to brag about killing, eating, drinking blood, just so he could get a reaction out of people like, oh my God, you're so cool, look at you, wow. So here's Pazuzu partying, killing animals, having sex with his fiance, swapping off girls, having people hang on to his every word. And of course, his house was like the corner block party house. So this man's ego had to be OOC, out of control. And it's scary when someone that is mentally ill could become such a person of power. That just shows the power of manipulation. According to reports, whenever new people would come over, they couldn't believe the smell of the house. They testified to piles of poop in the corners, the blood smears wiped all over the walls, and how they saw evidence of the animals they would sacrifice. And no one ever talks about the animals in this case, and I feel sorry for them. Like, these poor animals, like, they didn't deserve to go in this poopy ass house with all these nasty people and get tortured and sacrificed to Satan. Like, where's PETA? terrible. These poor animals, like, oh, God, love them. I feel so bad. They're victims also. Shut up, Nicole. Let's keep going. Now, mentioning the smell, the new people would ask Pazuzu, like, ew, why does this house smell the way it does? And Pazuzu, he would say that it was the piles of bodies that he had hidden in the basement, yada yada. Whenever he would tell the new people that he only showered once a year and brushed his teeth once a year, they would kind of be like, ew, about it. And he said, don't worry, I've got the power of Satan to keep me clean. Yeah, I know. I know what you're thinking. I know. For a house that had no rules, there was actually a list of rules. I've read these rules. It's just a bunch of nonsense. He would make people that came there sign it, and I'll insert a picture of it. Fast forwarding, in May 2010, Pazuzu's mother decides to stop by and check on her son finally. Apparently, a fight breaks out, and Pazuzu is so overcome with rage, he runs across the room, tackles his mother to the floor, and chokes her until she loses consciousness. Now, I'm not sure if she called police or if someone there called police, but the police do show up, and Pazuzu is arrested, but he doesn't make it anywhere. The police ask his mother if she wants to press charges, and she says no. Now, if it was me, I would have to get my son in check. Now, when Pazuzu and his cult members weren't peeing and pooping all over his mother's house, they would go down to this river called the Yakin River. Here, Pazuzu would take part in black magic rituals, animal sacrifices, and his all-time favorite, satanic worshiping. Now, one day, they were all sitting there by the river's edge, and Pazuzu looks at his followers and says, hey, the next full moon, we are going to kill someone. So, in 2011, the police show up at Pazuzu's house, and they arrest him. They arrest him because they believe that he has involvement in the 2011 shooting of a gentleman named Joseph Chapman. And you guessed it, this happened at the Yakin River. Basically, Joseph Chapman was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And this shooting also happened on the night of a full moon. Joseph Chapman was just hanging out by the edge of the Yakin River, smoking a cigarette, when out of nowhere, someone walked up to him and shot him point blank range. Now, of course, Pazuzu didn't go anywhere without his followers. Whenever police started to question Pazuzu and his cult members, they found out that Pazuzu didn't do the shooting. It was actually one of his cult members, and his name was Nicholas. Nicholas ended up going to jail. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter, while Pazuzu only received 5 months probation, and he was charged with accessory after the fact of involuntary manslaughter. Now, this was 2011. Now, when Pazuzu was arrested, they gave him a psych eval. Somehow this psych eval became public, and no one knows who leaked it to the public. Whenever people read this report, people were even more scared of him, and this is exactly what he wanted. In the report, it explained his assault on his mother, all of his satanic worshiping and whatever. And this was a small town. Now, in this report, it also details about how he would sacrifice many animals and his blood drinking. So everybody in the community really started to fear this man even more, and people started to watch him. However, he would still brag about the bodies in the basement, etc. And even though people feared him, they still knew that he was kind of crazy and how he lied, so they would never take him serious. They would never believe him. Like, why or how didn't he get jail time? He orchestrated this whole thing. While I realize people like that don't necessarily belong in jail, but they do 100% belong in a psychiatric ward where they can get help, where they can get treatment. And it keeps them away from harming anyone in the community or possibly themselves. And if you all guessed it, old Pazuzu, he murders again. Fast forward, we're inserting Josh Wexler, his girlfriend, and their little boy into this story. Now, this little family, in the beginning, they were just living the American dream. But one day, Josh started going down a dark road. Now, Josh was known to love concerts. He loved the Grateful Dead, and he was kind of a hippie. Well, whenever Josh started going down this dark road. His girlfriend Stacy decided to end things in her relationship with him. They had a son, and she didn't want her son exposed to the drug life. Now, one evening, Stacy noticed that it had been a while since she had heard from Josh. Like, Josh hadn't called and checked on their little boy. It had been a while. In fact, it had been 6 months. Now, if the father of my children hadn't contacted me in a while, I would definitely not wait 6 months to report him missing or check up on him or, contact friends, family, whatever. Like, a lot of people thought that that was weird and suspicious. In fact, it was Christmas time that she realized that she hadn't heard from Josh in a while. And she stated how much he loved Christmas and he would have never missed Christmas. So she ended up reporting him to the police. Now, insert Tommy Welch into this story. Now, Tommy Welch was a guy who loved cars. He loved to get his hands dirty, and he was a very clean-cut guy. He was against drugs, partying, all that type of stuff. Now, one evening, he was supposed to go to movie night with his brother. And whenever he didn't show up, now unlike Josh Wexler's family, Tommy Welch's family didn't waste any time. They reported him missing immediately. They called the police and filled out a missing persons report. According to court documents, Pazuzu abducted Josh because he needed a sacrifice for the devil. Josh was kept in Pazuzu's basement 4 days. This poor guy. He was starved. He was chained. He was abused and tortured. Now, eventually, Pazuzu grew some balls, and I'm not saying this is right in any manner, but he did the killing himself this time. He took a shotgun, went downstairs in the basement, and ended Josh's suffering, while his followers stood alongside him. Pazuzu picked up the shotgun and shot Josh Wexler 6 times. Pazuzu's fiancés then picked up Josh Wexler's body, took him out to the backyard, dismembered him, and then buried him in different places all over the backyard. Pazuzu did the same exact thing as he had done to Josh Wexler to Tommy Welch. Starved him, chained him, kept him in the basement for days, tortured him, then brought a shotgun downstairs, shot him 6 times, and Pazuzu's fiancés dismembered him and buried him in the backyard. Tommy was also a sacrifice to Satan. Pazuzu, his followers weren't so loyal as he thought. Several of Pazuzu's followers had big mouths on them, and thank God they did. They went around town telling everyone what Pazuzu was up to. Tip after tip, though, was reported to police, and they did absolutely nothing about it. It's just crazy. Now, remember Stacy, Josh Wexler's girlfriend? Well, she got wind of these murders, and she heard that her ex, Josh, was one of these victims of Pazuzu's. So she went straight to the police. And at this time, everything was starting to come undone for Pazuzu. Pazuzu was getting worse, I guess mentally maybe, and he was starting to abuse his cult members as well as other people. And a lot of his followers were getting really sick of it. So some of his cult followers went to the police themselves. For the first time, the police actually go and search Pazuzu's house. Okay, get this. When the police finally walked into this house, can you imagine someone who lives a normal life, what they thought, what they smelled, what they experienced whenever they went into this home where people had piles of poop in the corner, blood all over, dead bodies of animals, blood wiped all over the walls, like poop wiped on the walls. Like, I could only imagine what these officers endured when they walked into this nasty ass place.
All right, let's do it. Oh yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely unfit for human habitat. Back there. Look at that. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good. Is that thing dead?
No, it's alive. I think it's coming through the roof. Watch your step, there's a lot of broken glass.
Okay.
You get that window down there.
That one, yeah, I got it good. Ah,
Fourth step from the bottom is kind of loose, so
Okay.
be careful on you. That one.
all
You're
right.
good.
In my opinion, the police just couldn't take the nastiness of that place, and that's why they only searched a little bit, and they claimed they couldn't find anything, so they left, which I can understand. But when people are missing, you're just gonna have to plug your nose or something, baby, because you need to get up in there and look for those people. Fast forward to October 5th, 2014. After several more tips come in, the police finally get a second warrant to search Pazuzu's home. One of the tips that was given to police was that the bodies were buried in the backyard. This time, the police concentrate on Pazuzu's backyard, and they finally find the bodies of poor Josh and poor Tommy. So immediately, Pazuzu is arrested along with two of his fiancées. I'm sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. As you all watch me, you will see that I am terrible with name pronunciations and city, state, whatever, but I promise I will do the best I can. The two fiancées that were arrested, names Amber Colberg and Crystal Matlock. I couldn't find out how much time they got. Pazuzu ended up committing suicide in jail. And in April 2015, I think it's a group like Hazmat went into the house and did an estimate on what it would cost to make the home livable again. The amount that it would take to repair all the damages, to remove all the mold, etc., was $78,000. And they gave Cynthia 30 days to pay this. Well, obviously Cynthia couldn't come up with $78,000 in 30 days. The house thankfully was destroyed. And you know, the neighbors and everybody else, I'm sure, were so happy to see it go. Because who wants something that nasty sitting near your house? I'm sure that the neighbors were throwing a fit. And I'm sure that house smelled like straight booty hole. According to rumors, some of his fiancés and other people that hung out at that house, apparently it was rumored that Pazuzu had killed a couple prostitutes as well. Nobody found out if that was true. That was all just speculation. That was never confirmed. That's it. That's the story of Pazuzu. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to try to start doing like reaction videos and stuff in between, so you guys don't have to wait so long for a video from me. Because right now it seems like my uploads are going to be posted on Fridays. I'll try to have like a reaction video posted for Wednesdays. And I'm still open to suggestions for different names for these series. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Never forget how special you truly are. Au revoir.